It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning. Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book. Back as always, getting you ready for the day in sports on Thursday. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex, we got a smaller baseball slate here on a Thursday, but a fun one nonetheless.
That's right. I'm Alex White. I'm excited. 8 games. We'll probably go through them in about 16 minutes. So everyone make sure that you are up and ready and paying attention.
That was good. I like that. Honesty at the forefront this morning here on the show. Matt Neverett will be with us in about 25 minutes. And we'll also tell you what else is coming on the show here today. On the starting 5 right out of the gate here to kick things off. We start in Queens. The Mets, they annihilated the Yankees last night. They sweep the Subway Series, and now they welcome in Atlanta, who is limping in right now with all their injuries, not playing well out of the break either. 1-4 out of the break, out of the All-Star break. Kind of fortunate that they had the rain out again last night. So they get to throw their ace, Chris Sale, in Lee Severino goes for the Mets. All over the map on this number. Braves open -120. Mets are now even money, so close now. That line has shifted. The Mets only a game and a half behind Atlanta for that number 1 wild card. The Braves once led the Mets by 11 games this year in the wild card race.
Yeah, if you like the Mets, hopefully you jumped in early because you could get plus money overnight or this morning. Great pitching matchup there. And number 2 as well. Logan Webb, the ace for the Giants, up against the Dodgers. And Clayton Kershaw is back. First time this year we will see him. But the bettors like San Francisco. Dodgers now -121. Total in this one, 8.5. Juice to the under, -115.
Going against Kersh in his first game back after significant shoulder injury, and Dodgers welcoming that, even though Dodgers finally had their win streak snapped last night by the Giants. Number 3, Tampa and Toronto, rubber match. Taj Bradley and Chris Bassett, your starters north of the border. Bassett's a small favorite at -109. Total 7.5. You know, this both of these teams kind of in a weird spot here. Blue Jays, I should say, should sell. The Rays, you know what? If these teams keep letting everyone hang around, then maybe you might see a surprise buyer. But again, with 5 days to go before the deadline, both of these teams on the outside are looking in, going in to the final week of July.
Number 4, don't look now, but the Padres have won 4 in a row. We know they have been a little streaky all year long, but this might be a good time to jump in on them. Their bats have definitely been hitting. Game 3 against the Washington Nationals. Dylan Cease for the Padres against Patrick Corbin and Washington. Padres -150. Total in this one is 9.
A wild card race in the National League, as we've talked about all year, actually starting to look a little bit even more chaotic with the Braves losing those games. The Padres, as Alex just said, red hot. The Arizona Diamondbacks, Pittsburgh Pirates also within a game. So we got all these teams, 6 teams, within 3 games of each other entering today right now for those 3 wild card spots in the National League. And at number 5 today on the show also, we continue our AFC North preview. Finally, a division Alex and I don't see eye to eye on, which might actually lead the bettors to some interesting places when it's all said and done. We go to the Cleveland Browns later in the day today, around 9:40. We'll be talking Browns football as Cleveland coming off a playoff appearance. Very interesting offseason for them where they only really made one big move. And we'll break down the Browns at 9:40 here today on the show. All right, Alex, let's go to today's baseball slates. You said 16 minutes. Let's do it in 16 minutes here this morning. Let's start off again, smaller card today, only 8 games. And we got one that's about to start in D.C., so let's do this quickly. Corbin and Cease. Cease is $1.50. Total is 9. 30-cent move from the peak on this, where San Diego is -180 at one point overnight.
I like the Padres here. I went ahead and laid the run line here. Take a shot with them. As I mentioned, they have been hitting. Their bats have been hot, scoring 7, 2, 4, and 12 in their last 4 games to get the win. Also, Patrick Corbin has been a little bit better, but still nothing great. 2-9 record this year, 5.35 ERA. And Dylan Cease has been really good. 32.5% strikeout rate to a 7.6 walk. So, yeah, I like the Padres. I'm going to take a shot, about a half a unit play here for me. Padres run line.
Padres run line to play for Alex. Pods, again, 4 in a row after losing the first one out of the break against Cleveland. And again, this NL wildcard race entering today. Entering today, you have all these fun teams here where the Pirates, 2 games over 500, are 1 game out of a playoff spot. They're inactive today. They are not in action. The Pirates, of course, are losing 2 out of 3. Or excuse me, I should say winning 2 out of 3 against St. Louis earlier in the week to make that even tighter. Not in rotation number order real quick on the next game. We just have to go to it because it's starting in 5 minutes as well. The only interleague game that is going today, and that is Baltimore and Miami, where Miami, a little bit better out of the All-Star break, split the series with the Mets, took the first 2 against the Orioles, and the Orioles are just not taking advantage of the Yankees forgetting how to play baseball. They only have a 1.5 game lead, despite the Yankees having the worst record in baseball since June 15th, now going over a month now with the Yankees having the same amount of wins as the Chicago White Sox in that period of time. Not what you want if you're the Bronx Bombers. But for the Orioles, trying to avoid the sweep against the second worst team in the NL with Corbin Burns on the mound today against Munoz for Miami. Minus 210 on the O's, plus 185 on the Fish. This is another big mover behind us. Opened minus 260, got as high as minus 275 on Baltimore, but there's been one-way traffic on Miami since about 2 in the morning today here at the South Point.
I will say I do think that minus 210 is a little bit high, and even if it got even higher, taking that number from a value standpoint, even though it is the Marlins, I do understand that. Little bit of a lean to the under, but I found other plays I liked more in this one. I trust Corbin Burns, of course, 10-4 on the year, 124 innings pitched. Expected ERA, 3.06, 24% strikeout rate. On the other side, Munoz, only 19% strikeout rate. Good whip, though, 1.39, and expected ERA, though, 6.77. So nothing for me in this one, but it is a lean to the under here. If Corbin Burns can shut down the Marlins, let's look at their team total. It is 2.5, so that's a little bit too low for me to even jump in on there.
2.5 in a game that's 8? Yeah, that's not what you're looking for with that one. The Miami, well, I will say this with Miami. You look at their offense since the All-Star break. This is an offense that has struggled all year long. They've scored 4 or more in every game but 1. So a little bit better again, and nothing to really write home about. But again, that's been better than what they've been doing for the majority of the season. The 6 spot 3 separate times out of the All-Star break against 2 teams that are both currently in playoff positions in Baltimore and the Mets. All right, going to the rest of the day, and we will go to Los Angeles here, Alex White, where you mentioned in the opening of the show, Clayton Kershaw. Welcome back. First start of the season off of the shoulder injury. And for the Dodgers, we talked about it all week, their rotation getting healthy at the right time. It is a little ironic that Glasnow comes back and Glasnow gets beat yesterday. It wasn't his fault. The bullpen got annihilated in the 8th inning. Robbie Ray also threw 5 no-hit innings for the Giants yesterday, even though it was a pretty wayward 5, even though he didn't give up a hit. But the Dodgers here today, it's Kershaw against Webb. Kershaw minus 121. This opened minus 135 behind us, so there has been some nice dog action on the Giants here in this one at Chavez Ravine.
Another half of unit play for me in this one. I jumped in at Giants plus 122. I don't imagine that Kershaw will go too long. I mean, he's definitely going to be
max, probably
on a pitch count there. And then Logan Webb has just been so good. I liked what I saw from San Francisco yesterday with that 8-3, right? Was the final win over the Dodgers. So starting to put some things together. Of course, I should mention the Dodgers 5-1 in their last 6 since the break. So besides yesterday, they were definitely rolling, but got to take a shot here with plus money with Logan Webb on the mound.
This kind of feels like this should be an under. At least that's the way that I would look at it. 8.5, bounce between flat and now juice to the under at minus 115 behind us. Just more than anything with the Dodgers, you look at this team, and we've talked about it all year. By the way, the weather today at Dodger Stadium, it's going to be hot.
Yes.
It's going to touch 90 in LA. Wind about 8 miles an hour, cross more than anything. I still would look to the under here. I know it is. Again, hot day at LA. Usually ball flies out. Thankfully, the wind's not blowing out. If it was blowing out, we'd be seeing a 9 even with these pitchers here today at Chavez Ravine. And one more thing on the Dodgers real quick. Really, at this point, I don't think there's a difference between being the 1 and the 2 seed in the national in these leagues. I don't think it matters, realistically speaking. I actually think you're probably better off with the 2 seed. Now, we know, infamously so far in this new format, the home team in the first round, the only one who has advanced. The Astros advanced both years. The Yankees also advanced as the 2 seed out of the AL 2 years ago. The National League top 2 seeds are 0-4 in their division series. Now, granted, the Dodgers and the Braves are the 2 culprits both times.
Right.
So, again, I don't think there's much of a difference. Right now, the Phillies have a 3.5 game lead on the Dodgers for that number 1 seed. In normal circumstances, I actually think it'd be better to be the 2 because I think that sometimes the 3 seed ends up being weaker than the 4 because just the way that it plays out. This year, I don't think there's much. I think that the 4, 5, and 3 are all pretty similar. It could even be the 6 and 0. That's no disrespect to Milwaukee. I just think all these other teams in the wild card, if they find it, are equal or better than Milwaukee. So again, I don't think there's much of an issue for the Dodgers. More so than anything, got to win the division series if you get there for LA. 19 games over 500 for the Dodgers. Still your betting favorite to come out of the National League. No shock on that. All right, moving along. Speaking of 2 teams that are currently in the playoffs, these teams would actually be playing each other if the NL playoffs began today, and that's the Mets and the Braves, who the Braves they're a mash unit right now, Alex White. And you look at the way that Atlanta has looked out of the break, it's been pretty ugly so far. Their only win was the extra inning game on Saturday, the first of the doubleheader. Since then, 9-5, 6-2, 4-1, 9-4. It has been a struggle for Atlanta's offense and their pitching, which is obviously a very bad combination. They do get to throw Chris Sale here today. So this is actually the first start for Sale since, wildly enough, it is the first Sale since pre-All-Star break because of the rainouts. He was supposed to pitch on Tuesday, didn't go because of the rainout. Was supposed to go the late game yesterday. That got rained out. So Sales hasn't pitched in almost 2 weeks at this rate. And he goes against Lee Severino of the Mets. Market is bet New York here from minus 120 on Atlanta now to minus 109. Braves are leaking oil, Alex, and it is a very alarming turn with all these injuries, and the Braves just seemingly can't stay healthy. And their key guys of Olsen and Riley, who were so key to that magical run 2 years ago, coming from 11 back in July to win the NL East, those guys have not been good this year. And if it wasn't for Marcell Ozuna, this offense would really be looking mediocre right now, and it already is as it is.
Yes, it is. And it is looking a little bit scary for them on whether they are going to make the playoffs. Need to turn it around here. I'm not going to pick a side in this one. I would lean towards the Mets because they have been playing so well, but I'm going with the under 4 in the first 5 innings with these 2 pitchers on the mound. I mean, Chris Sale has been fantastic, Cy Young favorite right now, and then Severino has been really good for the Mets too this year. So instead of going full game, I'm going with the first 5 under here. 4 here at the South Point minus 115.
Right now, you mentioned it, Sale plus 140 to win the National League Cy Young. I don't think he's the right favorite, personally. I think Wheeler should be the favorite, who is currently plus 175 as the second favorite. And fair or not, if Atlanta, with all these expectations, even with all the injuries that have happened, if they miss the playoffs, I don't know. It probably means Sale probably fell off in the back end of the season as well. Right now, Atlanta is still minus 650 to make the postseason. Now, granted, they were over $12 before the All-Star break. So coming back to earth, plus 450 on the no. These numbers via DraftKings, by the way. As you look at all the numbers in this National League wildcard race, The only other team that you technically are laying a price, even though they're an underdog to make the playoffs, still San Diego's minus 105 to make the playoffs. That's the only other one that's not even money or better right now in the National League playoff race, other than Atlanta. All the division leaders are off the board right now, as they should be, because I think it would take a Herculean effort for any of those teams to. Well, Dodgers and Phillies are definitely making. Brewers would really have to melt in order to miss the postseason altogether.
I'm sure that Padres has a lot to do with their upcoming schedule.
I would agree. I also would say at this rate that just liability-wise, you have to imagine that San Diego probably has reasonable liability for the book. You mentioned the Padres' schedule after this week, I should say, because they finished the series with the Nats. They have 5 games, I should say, Baltimore and the Dodgers. So 2 first-place teams. Wow. They get the Rock, but after that, Colorado, at Pittsburgh, so playoff caliber potential, at Miami, Pittsburgh again, Colorado. So they have 5 series where 3 of them are against the 2 worst teams in the National League, and then Pittsburgh, who, look, you got to beat the teams that you're trying to hold off. Then the schedule does get a little more, gets much more difficult. Minnesota and the Mets and the Cardinals for 11 after that to wrap up the month of August. So we'll see. But that stretch, that 5-series stretch after the Dodgers and the Orioles, definitely easier for San Diego. The Mets have the easiest schedule of the collection going through the remainder of the schedule right now. But as we know, that's just on paper. Got to play the games, as we know. Alex, rolling along here to the Guardians and the Tigers. Williams and Holton, your pitching matchup here. Cleveland minus 145 at home. It's another big mover from minus 180 to minus 145 on the Guards here with a total of 8, Alex.
This one, I have absolutely nothing. I think that those numbers are just right. Maybe a slight lean to the under. I do have this game at 7, but I mean, we saw the Tigers. They won 8-2 game 1, and then the Guardians answered back 5-4. Yesterday, very low scoring game, 2-1, but so I don't know what to expect here with these pitchers on the mound. Both of them are fairly good, above average, maybe average. But yeah, I think that minus 145 is the correct number. Just a little lean to the under.
This feels like a good price on Cleveland. Now down to $1.45. Williams had a tough outing his last go. Padres really took it to him, especially in the middle of his outing. Cleveland, as we mentioned, is still in first place, just hovering around, not playing their best ball right now. They're underwater their last 13 games at 5-8. But look, still 5 games clear of Minnesota. It's the teams behind them haven't fully taken advantage. Minnesota hasn't played their best. Royals lose a series to Arizona. Infuriating fashion to view at the Royals last night, where it looked like Kansas City should have got a game-ending strike him out, throw him out. Pitch that was a strike was improperly called a ball. 5 runs later, Arizona wins that game and takes that series in Kansas City. So Royals, again, still in that final wild card right now because the Red Sox, again, a lot of these teams in the American League are not playing well all at the same time. Kansas City still in that final wild card in the AL.
I will add to your lean for the Guardians here. So yesterday I took the Guardians team total under, and that was due to a lot of their stats against right-handed pitchers. So having a lefty on the mound, I like that with Cleveland as well.
Guardians win and team total went under yesterday. So it was a double perfecto if you liked Cleveland yesterday and didn't like them score a lot of runs. Let's go to Arlington, Texas next. Jonathan Cannon and Max Scherzer, your pitching matchup. Minus 240 on this. Total 8. You know, it's been interesting. We put our man Sean to work, Alex White, baseball savant, where you can find these numbers. Park factor. These are the top pitchers parks so far this year, and in the rolling 3-year average. Globe Life Field comes in as the second best pitchers park in baseball this year. The lower the number, the worse it is for offense. The higher the number, the better it is for offense. For reference sake, Colorado is number 1 this year with minus 107, which is actually, or excuse me, not minus 107, just 107, which is actually down from what it's been over the 3-year rolling average, 112, Colorado. But It's interesting, Alex, that this ballpark that has been a pretty neutral ballpark over its existence is number 2 as the best pitchers park so far here in 2024.
I would say it has a lot to do with the hitting from the other side. Looking at this game today, though, we haven't seen Scherzer's best stuff. I'm kind of surprised that it's such a big number here. I can't argue with it. I do think they should be at least $2 favorites. But I didn't find anything that jumped out to the board. We did see Jonathan Cannon go 6 or 7 in his last outing. But really, not a lot of strikeouts from either of these guys. So 20% from Scherzer, average is about 21.3 and 17.8 here from Cannon. And then Scherzer's expected ERA is 4. So not his best stuff, but I think this would be a great bounce back spot for him. Because 1-3 record so far this year.
Cannon, 4 runs in the first 2 innings, and in the last 4 innings, ended up finishing strong in Kansas City last week. Scherzer, I thought the Rangers were going to be a full-blown seller at the deadline. And because of what has happened in that division where the Mariners are just playing some dreadful baseball right now, swept at home by the Angels during the midweek, the Astros aren't playing well either. And here you are with Texas, 2 games underwater, 3 games out of the division. So now if you're Texas, you can't justify selling right now with the way the division is totally just opened up here. They were 8 games out about 7 game days ago. So this is, again, a team that is in the mix, a team, of course, with championship pedigree of a year ago. All right, you know what? Because we see him, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, because I know he has a play on the next game on the list, or we'll check in Reno after we get back with our good friend Matt Neverett, the voice of UNLV football and more when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yes. I am beautiful. And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah. Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. We are thrilled, as always, to be with you. Happy to call this studio home. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. I never realized how ridiculous that looked, but I do that for a purpose sometimes when I have it off the one ear, make sure I can hear Alex perfectly well. But our guy right now, Alex, is going to join us, who, of course, we see with you every once in a while. We're going to see him in a few weeks with Frank Nicotero. You'll also see him at times through the football season. You also hear him on Aviators broadcast and UNLV football coming up this fall. Our guy, Matt Neverett, with us right now from Reno. Good morning, Matt. Thanks for getting up early after what has been a fun few days up in Reno for you guys.
Yeah, guys, happy to hop on anytime. Aviators coming off back-to-back wins. You love a 3-hour, 40-minute, 10-inning marathon in the opening game of a 6-game series. That was 2 nights ago, and then Las Vegas maintaining that momentum last night with a win. So always good to get some wins on the road, and of course in Reno we stay at a casino here, so good to get some bets on the tables as well.
Wow.
So Matt, let's go to today in Major League Baseball. Let's start with a game we haven't talked about yet, and we honestly saved it perfectly for you, and that's the game north of the border. Taj Bradley, Chris Bassett, Battle of the Bees up there at the Rogers Center. Minus 109 on Toronto at home here. Total's been bet down from 8 to 7.5 on this one.
I'm going to go and follow my guy Taj Bradley. He has been phenomenal all season long. Former number 1 prospect of the Rays, has been great in the month of July. 3 starts this month, 20 innings. He's allowed exactly 1 earned run. And he's done 2 of those on the road. He's gone 6, 7, and 7 in terms of his length. He's been great in terms of not allowing base runners. He's garnered a ton of strikeouts over that stretch as well. So I like Taj Bradley and the Rays in this matchup. The Blue Jays won last night north of the border, as you had mentioned. So I think that the Rays in the final game of this road swing are able to kind of ride some of that momentum. They're not a contender, as you guys were just talking about, in terms of the division odds, but neither are the Blue Jays. I mean, the Blue Jays are a team that has had the bottom fall out from them. They look to be sellers at the deadline. I would not be surprised to see Bo Bichette, if not others, on a new team come a couple of weeks from now. I like the Rays. They've been kind of toggling back and forth since the All-Star break with just one set of consecutive wins or losses. They won back-to-back games in New York at one point. They lost yesterday. I'm going to ride that pattern and go with them to win today as a slight favorite.
I'm with you, Matt. I like that play as well. Was looking at the Rays' first 5, though, because of Bradley getting the start there. I know you don't have a play in this one, but I want to bring up the Oakland Athletics. Ryan McCormick gave us this on Punchlines yesterday. A's are 7-5 in their last 12, scoring 81 total runs in those 12 games, and then none of those games have been decided by less than 3 runs. What is going on in Oakland? Can you kind of sum it up for us?
Well, they've been hot, as you kind of alluded to. And last week, Lawrence Butler, who has been the hottest of the hitters, said something to the effect of, we're the best offense in baseball when we're really clicking. And I kind of took that and was like, every offense could say that at one point or another. Every offense is the best offense in the league when they're clicking. But that has been the case for Oakland this month. They're one of the best records in the league in the month of July. They're starting to turn the tide offensively. They've got Ross Stripling on the mound today, coming off of a rehab assignment, actually with the Aviators. Made a couple of appearances in Las Vegas, one in Sugar Land as well. And he'll go against the lefty Kenny Rosenberg, who's been up and down between LA and their AAA affiliate in Salt Lake here in the PCL. He's consistent, but he throws a ton of strikes. And against this Oakland team that has been mashing the ball as of late, I actually like that to go with Oakland and their favorite in this one. And I think for good reason. The Angels are going this way. The A's are going this way. Maybe not in a macro sense as far as the playoffs or a potential World Series run, but in a short little spurt, I really like the way that the A's have been playing, mainly the way that they've been hitting. I also think that they're a team, I know that they're going to be a team that's going to sell a little bit at the deadline, maybe not quite as much as some folks may think. Keep an eye on J.J. Bleday and Brent Rooker. I think those are the 2 names that are likely to be moved. That would open up some more time for Lawrence Butler and a couple of guys that have been stuck here in AAA as well.
You know, it'd be interesting. Obviously, a lot of people have mentioned Mason Miller's name as a potential trade piece.
Absolutely.
I just don't see Oakland doing that. But again, it's the A's. If the package is good enough from someone, maybe you do it, especially with the A's being a few years away still. And Matt, I'll just ask you this, just from before we'll have your other game in a second, but the deadline obviously is next week on the 30th. If you're looking like at a futures market or something like that, are you just waiting this out and saying, all right, I need to see which teams actually make the moves? Or are you trying to get out in front of it and saying, hey, I know, let's take Minnesota, for example. I know they're going to be active at the deadline because they're in the playoff mix and trying to run down Cleveland in the Central. Do you try to take shots on teams you know are going to be active at the trade deadline and making a bet on them actually having a good deadline?
I think that you could go with both. It really just depends on who you're taking a look at. I think for a team like you had said, the Minnesota Twins, who right now are in second in that division, and with the way that Cleveland's been playing this season, I think that they are going to win that division. But Minnesota's certainly not out of reach as far as winning the AL Central. So if you're going to take a look at a team like Minnesota, I would go for them right now. Now, if you're taking a look at a team like the Houston Astros, for example, I might wait, see what they do, because right now they have been hot. They've been riding a ton of momentum as of late, and they've enjoyed a really precipitous slide by the Mariners. So it really depends on what team you're going to take a look at. Maybe the Padres, maybe the D-backs. I think those are two teams that could potentially buy in the NL West to make a potential wild card run, because the Dodgers are going to run away with that division, as you guys had said earlier on in the show. So to answer your question, Jeff, I really think it just depends on who you're going to take a look at. I would stay away from anybody in the NL Central. That division is still up for grabs. Milwaukee is the front runner and has been for quite a while. But with the experience on this Cardinals team, you can't stay away. And my Pittsburgh Pirates, look out. I think that they're a really interesting team to take a look at the deadline. I think they're going to be slight buyers. I don't think they trade away any big pieces as far as the major league roster. But I would say keep an eye on Pittsburgh. If you're going to take a look at the Pirates, I know Frank's happy to hear this. If you're going to take a small piece of the Pirates, I would do it now, because I think they are going to be slight buyers at the deadline.
I'm excited to get your opinion on this game. I would say the game of the day, Logan Webb and the Giants against Kershaw and the Dodgers. The Dodgers, minus 121 right now. There has been money on the Giants now, if you like them, plus 111. Total in this one, sitting at 8.5, under minus 115.
Ooh, I mean, it's the return of Clayton Kershaw. He was basically able to set his own deadline as far as when he wanted to come back. He wanted to start a home game. He wanted to start the game against the Giants. And it is a big game. People tried Kershaw for not performing in the big games, but that's in the postseason. We're still here in the regular season. He's a phenomenal regular season performer. He's been getting ramped up for this particular game around the end of July, pretty much from opening day. He's been ready to go and slowed his rehab assignment by his own call at one point. So he's ready to go. I think he's about as ready as he will be coming back, facing off against the Giants. And as you had said, a slight dog, a little elevated total here in this game. I think that it could go over. It really just depends on what happens on the other side with Logan Webb. Webb's been really good. If it were me, I'm going under. But I'm really, really excited to see what Clayton Kershaw has in the bag. He's not going to knock the bat out of anybody's hands. Never really had velocity as a part of his game. He's got the best batting average against on curveballs in the modern era. And he's going to be the next guy to get to 3,000 strikeouts. In my eyes, guys, he's going to be the last pitcher of our lifetime to get to 3,000 strikeouts. He's about 60 away. I think he gets there this year. It's Verlander, it's Scherzer, it's going to be Kershaw, and that's it as far as active pitchers to get to 3,000 strikeouts.
All right, man. I want to go, since, of course, we just mentioned the multiple-time Cy Young Award winner. Obviously, he's not going to win it this year. But I want to go to some awards markets here real quick. And I want to start in the National League Cy Young race, where Chris Sale is pitching tonight, and he is a slight favorite against Lee Severino and the Mets. These numbers via DraftKings. Chris Sale is the betting favorite right now at plus 140 to win the Cy Young. Zach Wheeler's at plus 175. Paul Skeens is at 3-1 right now, which I think that's a little aggressive. Glasnow's the next guy at 25-1. So just ask you this, since it is deemingly 3-horse race now, according to DraftKings odds, I think Wheeler's the right bet personally. Where do you come down if you're picking between those three as the NL Cy?
Got to be Skeens. No, I think Wheeler is the right play. He's got the best team out of those three. You guys had talked about it earlier on the show. The Braves in a free fall right now. Had a team meeting before a rainout. It's just a really weird time right now in Atlanta. I think Skeens would have to literally strike out 10 batters and not give up any more runs in any of his outings the rest of the year, which he's capable of. He's shown us that. But Wheeler's got the most support. He's been the best as far as the on-field numbers to this point. So, yeah, I'm with you now. And I think if you're going to take Wheeler, I think now's the time. I think if you wait, that number's only going to drop. It was almost 3-1 about a week ago, now down to plus 175, as you had said. So I'm with you, Jeff. I think Wheeler's the play if you had to put a bet down right now.
All right, one other awards question, and then we'll shift over to your job in the fall with in the Mountain West with UNLV football. So Shohei Ohtani is a $4 favorite to win NL MVP. Aaron Judge is minus 350 to win the American League MVP. If you were to say, all right, one of these guys is not going to win the MVP, and so DraftKings has a Ohtani versus any other player market, plus 300 on the any other player. They also have one for Judge. It's plus 270 on any other American League player to win the AL MVP. Which one would you rather take the any other player in that sort of market, Matt?
I would do the American League. I think Otani right now is going to be the runaway National League MVP. He's, again, same argument that I made with Zach Wheeler. He's got the best supporting cast around him. He's going to have runners on base, although he only has one home run out of his 30-plus this year with runners on base. It's really weird. All of his home runs are solo shots. I think that's a number that's going to normalize throughout the rest of the year. Those 2-3-run bombs are going to come. He's going to have a ton of opportunities to drive runners in, and as the DH for this year, he's just going to hit. Keep an eye on him to pitch next year. In the American League, the number that I'm taking a look at is plus 650 on Bobby Witt Jr. He came out of that home run derby performance and has just continued to mash. He had 3 hits in his first 4 games, and that's not combined. That's in each game coming out of the All-Star break. Right now, Gunnar Henderson at plus 450, Orioles shortstop, is the second favorite behind Aaron Judge, but I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to make it a 2-horse race here in a little bit with this KC team. That's going to be another one to keep an eye out for as far as a buyer at the deadline. Bobby Witt Jr. is who I think right now would be my bet to win the American League MVP. It's a bit of a long shot at plus 650 at this point with Judge catching a minus 350 number. But yeah, that any other player bet, that field bet in the American League, it would be the AL for me as far as your original question.
Good stuff as always, Matt. Let's switch over to college football. I want to start with UNLV, of course. Win total from the Westgate, 7.5. Here for the Rebels. Now, I know there's a few coaching changes in the Mountain West that kind of sets them up nicely, Utah State and Fresno State. What are your thoughts on the UNLV football team going into this year?
A few coaching changes. I think just about everybody in the conference seemingly got a new coach, and that's going to be the theme of the year for UNLV on the gridiron this season, is going against first-year head coaches. I believe the number is 9 first-year head coaches they'll play against this year. It's a really unique schedule. They open at Houston, come back to play against Utah Tech. September 13th might be, if not one of the best games of the year for UNLV, on the road at Kansas, who defeated them in the bowl game last year, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl at the Chase Field in Phoenix. That game was hotly contested. There was a lot of back and forth, and there's still some bad blood. I know both sides were really trying to find a way to, maybe find another dance partner for that week, but the schedule's set. That's who they've got. And that game, September 13th against Kansas, is going to be one that I keep an eye out for. Then the homecoming game on October 25th against Boise State might be the best game of the year. And in my eyes, those are the 2 best teams in the Mountain West. Boise State with Malachi Nelson transferring in, former number 1 quarterback prospect out of USC, and Ashton Genty, who may be the best running back in the country this season. He's the best group of 5 running back far and away. So this Boise State team, who's always good, is going to be really solid. That game at Allegiant Stadium against Boise State on October 25th. So it really should be interesting. All of a sudden, Barry Odom is one of the longest tenured head coaches in the Mountain West Conference. And I think that he is going to do what he did last year. And it's going to be a bit better in my eyes because he's been able to recruit to his scheme a little bit more specifically over this last year. UNLV runs a really unique set on both offense and defense. Obviously, the go-go offense is unique and starting to really show Brennan Marion, the offensive coordinator, as one of the up-and-coming coordinators nationwide. And then on defense, they run a 3-3-5 scheme, which they really didn't have the bodies for last year. They didn't have that run-stopping plug in the middle like they will have this year. They didn't have the depth at the defensive back position last year either. They went on the recruiting trail and got a ton of DBs this past offseason. So I think that with the extra year to recruit for the specific schemes on both sides of the ball, UNLV is going to be a really interesting team to watch in terms of the college football playoff with the new format. Mountain West champion's going to have, in my eyes, about a 50-50 shot to get in as the 12th seed.
Well, I'm happy you brought that last point up because you and I kind of talked about this off the air, actually, Matt, where this year, of course, we know a non-Power 4 team has to go to the playoff as an automatic bid champion. And going through all the leagues, it came down to basically, to me, it was, all right, I have Boise State as the number 1 team in the Mountain West. That most of the media voted that in media days a few weeks ago. I had Appalachian State, your alma mater, as the number 1 team in the belt. And then I had Memphis as the number 1 team in the American. as the three teams, hey, they could logically get in. One of my favorite bets I've seen so far out there, I saw one book had Boise State at 5-1 to make the playoff, which feels very, very steep right now, especially when you bring that up. Just looking at the Mountain West as a whole, Boise State plus 140 favorite to win the conference here. It's even shorter at some books now with the news that Jeff Tedford was stepping away from Fresno, who was basically the second favorite everywhere until that news. Now it's shifted a little bit. But, man, I think the Mountain West, if you can find a prop, you can find something on Boise, you can find anything. I think the Mountain West is the non-Power 5 conference that gets to the college football playoff this year.
Certainly. And as much as I would love App State to get there, they would have to have just a dominant run like we saw a couple years ago when they got ranked and went into Texas A&M and beat them at Kyle Field. That's my biggest beef, by the way, with the college football video game. They ranked all the top toughest places to play, and they ranked Kyle Field as number one. Tell that to the App State Mountaineers. I think that, like I said, they would have to have just a tremendous run, nearly go undefeated to be able to make it. It's going to be the Mountain West champion or the AAC champion if you had to bet it right now. And I think Memphis will win that AAC, although Tulane's a team to watch for as a second favorite in that conference. But the Boise State number at 5-1 to make the playoff, I really like that because you're betting on them to A, be the conference champion, and B, be the best group of 5 team. I think the Mountain West this year is going to get the respect and the roses that it deserves for being one of the best, if not the best group of 5 conferences top to bottom. It's going to be an interesting year as far as the Mountain West is concerned with some of the first-year head coaches, but there is a lot of stability, not the mass exodus that we're used to from players transferring out when a new coach comes in. So there is some stability conference-wide. It's going to be the Mountain West champion or the AAC champ. So you're basically betting on Boise State to win and then getting a 50-50 shot over that AAC champ, whoever it may be. Probably Memphis, could be Tulane.
Matt, we really appreciate you hopping on with us. What does the rest of your day look like before you've got another Aviators game tonight?
Just hanging out. We're at the Grand Sierra Resort up here in Reno, which is actually pretty cool. First time that we've stayed up here. They've got a driving range into a lake, so I'm probably going to go hit some golf balls here and head over to the park about 1 o'clock for a 6:35 first pitch. And yeah, it should be a fun one tonight. Youth versus experience, the key tonight for the Aviators. They got the oldest player on the roster, Aaron Brooks, starting on the hill for Las Vegas against the 23-year-old right-hander, Christian Mena. Brooks was 12 years old when Mena was born. They'll go against each other in a 6:35 first pitch tonight on the West Coast.
Matt Neverett, you see him here every once in a while at South Point Studio. You hear him on Aviators games. You hear him on UNLV football coming up this fall across your dial here in Las Vegas. Matt, pleasure as always, man. Enjoy hitting the golf balls into the lake, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see. I may or may not enjoy it, but I'll be back in the studio on Tuesday with Frank helping to co-host Punchlines.
Absolutely. Our good friend, Matt Neverett. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you here on Tuesday. Absolutely. When we get back, we're going to the AFC North again. The Cleveland Browns are up next. They're in the playoffs a year ago. Will they make it 2 years in a row? We'll discuss it when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book. Jeff Parles, Alex White. Shout out to our crew, as always. Ryan McCormick is here, getting ready for Punchlines. We'll hear from him in about 15 minutes. Sean Caden. Sean Caden in the corner as well. That must have been so confusing for you watching at home, whatever just happened there. Also, shout out in the chat as well. Dean is in there as well, reminding us, of course, Christian Yelich goes on the IL, hurt his back, spine. Might not be good. We'll have to monitor that over the next few days, see what comes from that. Keith Lyle's in there because Keith likes spicing things up in the chat. Jerry mentioned anything about Sonic, Caden? No? Disappointed in you, Jerry. And then, of course, JR from the ballpark, as always. Also, we mentioned that that missed call at Kauffman Stadium last night. Also torpedoed the under as well. So shout out if you are in our chat, as always. Feel free to chime in.
Don't forget Ryan and Frank are...
Who cares about Frank? Come on now. Ryan's in there just pumping us up, as he always does. Ryan's a good coworker, to say the very least.
What are you going with your play of the day on Punchlines? Because I put some pressure on you.
My pick's at 12:36. Can I abstain again? Am I allowed to do that? Oh, okay. We'll figure it out. All the time.
Soccer.
Nah, no. Probably not. Not after whatever happened. They had that Argentina-Morocco thing where VAR's overturning a goal in 90 minutes after the game. Yeah, ridiculous. All right, Sean, put the football on fire so we can avoid me saying something potentially stupid about soccer here today. All right, let's go to the AFC North. We're back in it. We're halfway home. The top two teams in the division have been talked about. Baltimore and Cincinnati. Cleveland, I know we're gonna have some disagreement apparently based off of the look Alex just gave me.
But you're right. What the betting numbers are telling you.
Cleveland up today. So off season here for Cleveland. The big move Jerry Jeudy traded for. Didn't have to give much to be their second wide receiver behind Amari Cooper. Deshaun Watson makes his return after being ineffective before getting hurt last year. They signed Devin Bush, who not the greatest of linebackers at this point, but they needed to replace Sione Takitaki and Anthony Walker Jr., who both left at that linebacker position. Joe Flacco, after being signed off the actual bench, not even a football bench, leaves to go to Indy to be the backup for Anthony Richardson. I actually think they did a good job here in replacing Joe Flacco. They bring Jameis Winston in from New Orleans, so they still have, to me, a top-tier backup behind Deshaun Watson. Myles Garrett's your favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year at 7-1. Nick Chubb, the first time we've seen the CBPOY on our screen, which is Comeback Player of the Year, at plus 850, one of the three favorites. We'll have the favorite for Comeback Player of the Year next week on the show in the AFC East. I think that one's fairly obvious of who that favorite is. But Alex, Cleveland last year rode a all-time great defense at home to a playoff spot. And then the playoff game, Joe Flacco threw too many interceptions. Their defense didn't hold up on the road, and they lose. But this is a team that they are going to go as Deshaun Watson goes here in 2024.
Now, that I definitely agree with. And little pushback yesterday with Joe Burrow. But in this sense, it really does matter which Deshaun Watson we are getting. Of course, the last 2 years, he's only played 6 games each of those 2 years. And we're still trying to find the Deshaun Watson from his last year in Houston, who had 4,823 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, 70% completion. So if we can get that Deshaun Watson, this team is looking very good. I still have a lot of confidence in them. I do think we'll see an uptick from him and his starts. I mean, last year he started 6 games. The passing completion did drop to 58%. So that is something that we definitely have to see get better here. But I still have them as a top 10 team in the league, especially defensively. And I'm glad you brought that up. That kind of slipped my mind. It was a pretty big split home and away. But still looking at the numbers and where they fit defensively in the league to finish the season are still very impressive. And we'll get into the defense even more. But also, shout out to the head coach, Kevin Stefanski, who has won NFL Coach of the Year 2 times now in the last 4 years. So he knows what he's doing. He's just done a great job with less. And even without their starting quarterback, still found a way to make the playoffs.
Yeah, there were rumblings. Remember, going into last year, Stefanski had somewhat of a hot seat going into last year. I never really bought that. I always thought he's a really good head coach. I mean, let's just look at the history of this franchise, especially since coming back into the league in the late 90s. They've been dreadful. And now you get 2 playoff appearances in 4 seasons for this Cleveland team. They've done it last year. I mean, Flacco was their 4th quarterback that started a game. They ended up starting 5 different quarterbacks when it was all said and done. But, I just want to bring this up with the Cleveland defense, where last year we brought it up a lot, where they were considered a top 2 defense last year. I don't think that was really the case. I thought last year when they were at home, they were dominant at home. I can't argue that. They were 8-1 at home last year. They allowed less than 14 points per game at home. They gave up less than 4.5. They gave up less than 5 yards a play at home. They were very impressive all the way around at home. When you took them out of their own building, I'm not even including the playoff game, which was a disaster by any stretch last year. Underwater on the road, they gave up nearly 30 points a game last year on the road. The yards per play went up to approaching 7 yards per play on the road, where, again, if you want to be an elite, at least to me, if you want to be considered the elite of the elite on defense, you got to do it everywhere. And as great as they were at home, where they were the best defensive football at home last year, no questions asked. But they were a bottom tier defense on the road last year. In order, even more so than Deshaun Watson getting back to himself, you got to hope there's no defensive regression at home, and you better hope there's positive regression away from home on Cleveland on the defensive end. I just have so many questions about this team going into the year more so than anything. That's why I'm a little bit lukewarm on their prospects here in 24.
I would imagine that you can use that to build off of, right? Having a good defense at home. I'm sure that they are well aware, especially the coaching staff, what they need to improve and needed to make that fix on the road. They still 17% of their opponent drives resulted in touchdowns. That's
a good number.
Same as the Niners.
Yep, good number.
Chiefs were 16% to give you kind of a number to go off of there. But yes, we had some linebacker switches. I think they have the best secondary in this division. I also really like their defensive line and their offensive line. Plus, we haven't talked about offense very much. I think this is the second best, if not the best, skill position group in this division.
Let's see here. Nick Chubb coming off of the major knee injury.
Depends on that.
The major knee injury as well.
Nick Chubb back. Yep.
You're higher on the receivers than I am. I think that's what it comes down to more so than anything. I think Amari Cooper's a perfectly fine number 1. Jerry Jeudy was a monster disappointment in Denver. Yeah, you can put some of the blame, I guess, on what the quarterback situation was, but he still didn't produce. We've seen Cortland Sutton at least produce, even when he's been healthy, even with mediocre quarterback play. Yeah, I think you're way higher on their skill position players. Just going off the top of my head, Cincinnati skill position players are better. At least to me, and Baltimore.
It's funny, though, because if you look at and you compare each of these teams, they highlight different positions, right? Like Cincinnati doesn't really have a true tight end. I like the tight end here in Cleveland. I mean, they have they have 4 tight ends to be real, but not an elite tight end. And I think David Njoku is right up there in this league. So it kind of just depends. And then on the flip side, Baltimore, I mean, clearly going after Derrick Henry. running the ball.
And Andrews will be healthy again.
Andrews healthy, so they're more tight end heavy. So it kind of just it's hard to just wrap and say skill positions.
More so than anything, Alex, just going to their schedule and their win total. They are 8.5, juiced over. To win the division, they're the long shot in the division behind us. I don't think that's correct. I think they should be shorter than Pittsburgh going into the year. We'll get the Steelers tomorrow, and there was also some news out of Steeler camp today that I know will make some waves out on Punchlines later in the day. You know, we're going to learn a lot early. They play Dallas week 1 at home. Key at home for that one. At Jacksonville, and then 3 very winnable games in a row against the Giants, and then 2 roadies against the Raiders and the Commanders, which is a very weird back-to-back. And then they have to go to Philly, which then the schedule really ramps up 6 through 9, where they play 4 teams that I all have in that I all have in the postseason going into this year. You know, schedule is all right. I think it's relatively manageable. But when push comes to shove here, I do have Cleveland missing the postseason. I think 8.5 is right. I think 8-9 or 9-8 are the right records, more so than anything. I just don't buy Deshaun Watson. That's all it comes down to, more so than anything for me. I think Deshaun Watson is a complete shell of himself at this point. And I don't think he was injured as early as they claimed last year with the shoulder. I know there was a year and a half of rust the year before, all right, but he was arguably worse than he was in those 6 games at the end of last year when you saw him on the field this past season. So I just don't think that Deshaun Watson of old is around anymore. I think he's on the wrong side of his career, and I don't think we see a guy that's better than about the 20th best quarterback in the NFL. Where if that's the case in this division, it worked last year for a part of it. I don't think it's working 2 years in a row in this division, and especially with this conference looking significantly more strong than it did a year ago. I think Cleveland to miss the playoffs is the best bet on the board here for the Browns. If we're going at it, as long as you don't have to lay more than $1.35, I think you're okay doing that with the Browns.
I'm glad you brought up those first 5 games there. I think that could be a good opportunity. See how they do. I think that looks like a 4-1 start.
Could be
Pretty. Yeah. I mean, they should take care of business in Jacksonville, especially if their defense travels, which should be one of their main points of emphasis there. So, yeah, maybe can jump on a better number going under with their win total. I do think that 8.5 is right there. Do you think Deshaun Watson, it's not so much age and where he is in his career, I think it's more mental, which is very scary, right? Because he's definitely been in his own head the last 2 years, and since he's been in Cleveland and got paid all that money.
Yeah, sometimes guys just fall off a cliff. I mean, it happens. It just is what it's been with Watson, where I look in Houston, 3 unbelievably good years. And again, it's a guy who I didn't think was going to be that good of a pro coming out of Clemson. I thought he'd be fine. About a league average starter, was well above that for a few years in Houston. Now, he's arguably one of the worst starters in the NFL a year ago. But again, we'll see if Cleveland's defense adjusts. I'm just so worried about, forget just even if they have positive regression away from home, it is so hard to be that dominant on defense back-to-back years. It is so difficult, especially at home. It doesn't matter, home, road, whatever. If there's a little regression on the home front, a little bit alarming to me. And also, by the way, it's funny, you picked the Jaguar game as the one that potentially, I think that's the one that the first 5 I feel confident they're going to lose, more so than anything. I think Dallas, that's a perfect spot to pick off Dallas when Dallas is ill-prepared.
Ooh.
So that may be the thing. And then, hey,
I was more thinking kind of caught off guard with one of those 3 that they should definitely be.
They could absolutely lose here, even though I feel pretty confident in saying this statement. It's the first time the Browns will be making the trip here to Vegas since the Raiders have moved here. That is going to be 75% to 90% Cleveland fans here in that game.
I'll take
that. Will be all orange and brown in the stands of the Allegiant Stadium. That will be a home game for Cleveland more so than anything in week 4. Tomorrow we have Pittsburgh. I have a feeling I'm going to make some enemies in the studio with what my thoughts on the Steelers are going to be this year when on the show tomorrow, unless some things change. And there was some news that broke in Steeler camp today that I know Ryan McCormick, I sent that over to him. We can check in with Ryan in a second here as Punchlines is coming at noon. I'll be on the show today. I know we have a good fungo today. I know we have some fun line of the nights as well, but Ryan What else did I miss here? Is you, me, and Frank here today on Punchlines 2 hours from now.
Well, so yesterday we had talked to Spencer McLaughlin, who was at Big Ten Media Day, and his reenactment of Deshaun Foster's opening statements. So we're going to actually see the video of Deshaun Foster's opening statement. And then, yes, Jeff had mentioned we will have Fungo Trivia, a couple different ones, Quiz and Frank on players in Major League Baseball history. And then we've got some good stats from the Subway Series, the Mets-Yankees series, which the Mets ended up sweeping. So that, among other fun things in the sporting world. So you gotta tune in at noon.
I will say I very much enjoyed the Mets annihilating the Yankees in the Subway Series this year. Just throwing that out there. Mets had more home runs in the 4 games of the Subway Series than the Yankees had total runs in the 4 games.
Wow.
So pretty dominant. We'll give you the exact number on that later on Punchlines, 2 hours from now. And again, as always, as you see it on the bottom of the screen, at Punchlines FN, that's for Frank Nicotero, everyone. Every social platform, and also make sure you're following it on YouTube as well, because if you're going to want to watch Punchlines, you need to watch it on the Punchlines channel here on YouTube moving forward. So make sure you're subscribed to that. Be on the lookout for a potential Sports by the Book page coming your way very soon. So be on the lookout for that in the next few weeks.
For now, we'll stay right here.
We're
Studio,
not moving.
And we're back tomorrow.
We are.
And you're back Saturday.
You're you're off.
So two more days of Sports by the Book.
Steelers tomorrow. Dwayne Colucci tomorrow. Jimmy Vaccaro tomorrow. So we'll have a lot to get to on a Friday here on Sports by the Book. Alex, good show as always. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Jeff Parles. Back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.